Chapter 14, Shiniuan. The rest of the lesson went by at a snail's pace as teacher Li Yuan spent an extended amount of time to explain all the superior qi cultivation methods that the Royal Academy provided. This information was mandatory for every teacher to teach new student, as all the commoners had learned one of the standard qi cultivation method within the martial arts school. The Royal Academy was obviously much more prestigious than the martial arts schools, and they were capable of providing more detailed cultivation methods. However, the commoners had never been taught about the differences in the methods before, as that was considered unnecessary information since the martial arts schools did not have multiple methods to choose between. Hui Yu spent the time in deep thought, constantly contemplating the risks of selling a high-ranked martial arts skill. He tried to come up with other ways to earn money, but no matter what he came up with, none of the solutions would provide a significant income. Hui Yu sighed deeply, unable to completely ignore the uncomfortable feeling he had whenever he thought of Deng Wu suddenly mastering a high-ranked martial arts skill, and he decided to stop worrying about it for now. Instead, he allowed his gaze to sweep across the other students. Most of the commoners were paying attention to every word that teacher Li Yuan said, while the nobles were busy doing other things. Some of them were chatting together with low voices, while others were clearly mocking the commoners. A few were fiercely glaring at Hui Yu as they noticed his gaze, and once again Hui Yu looked at Wang Julong. Wang Julong was another reason he had to be careful. Deng Wu was terrifying because of his knowledge, however, Hui Yu had heard that he was not an outstanding genius. The likelihood of him being able to activate the skills were incredibly limited. Wang Julong on the other hand had a high quality of qi, and at the same time he already possessed enough skill for Hui Yu to be unable to beat him. If he had another high-ranked skill, then it would be certain that Hui Yu could not win with the skills he had available for now. Teacher Li Yuan finally finished his speech about qi cultivation methods before he went on to the academy rules about dueling. Hui Yu had already heard all the rules from Rongming and Ma Kong before he engaged in the duel against Wang Julong, so he decided not to pay attention to the speech and instead found the low student-ranked, non-combat martial arts skill Fire Spark, which he focused on completely. Lanfeng was about to complain about the choice of martial arts skill once again, but he noticed a slight change within Hui Yu's soul, a sense of expectation, as if he had noticed something hidden within this skill role, and the Blue Phoenix decided to stay quiet and wait instead. Wang Julong narrowed his eyes as he noticed that the white-haired boy had started studying, and since he had sworn to defeat Hui Yu soon, he closed his eyes and started to meditate, slowly sucking in the essence from within the room and refining it into qi. Everyone in the room noticed the movement of the essence and looked at the cultivating Wang Julong. The sight shocked most commoners, as they had never expected anyone to be so bold as to clearly ignore their teacher who was still speaking and instead started to meditate. However, when looking at Wang Julong, everyone would also look at Hui Yu somehow to compare the two geniuses to each other, and when looking at this child, the students felt even more shocked upon noticing that he was not focusing on the teacher either. He was instead sitting still, reading what appeared to be a martial arts skill. The commoners felt amazed from deep within while looking at these two boys. They were all clearly the same age, however those two individuals felt as if they were in a completely different world from them. Their indifferent attitude and stoic expressions clearly allowed the rest to know what it meant to be a true genius. Teacher Li Yuan could do nothing else than sighing gently while looking at those two children. Competition was a great thing, especially since it could push them to improve much quicker than if they had no one to compete against. However, teacher Li Yuan could not help but feel slightly helpless as both boys clearly ignored him, not paying attention to his lecture. Instead, he cleared his throat and continued his explanation of the rules of dueling, about the arenas that were open for everyone, and about the student emblem that would record wins and losses. When teacher Li Yuan reached the part where he explained about the rewards of defeating an opponent, the chance of getting the higher-ranked courtyards, and even the possibility of mountaintop courtyards, the students could no longer contain their excitement. Greed and expectation started to shine within their eyes, and the students were speaking with their side man, discussing the possibilities about getting a mountaintop courtyard. Unfortunately, the excitement was quickly dimmed when teacher Li Yuan continued the speech and published the two students who currently lived within those courtyards, Hui Yu and Wang Julong. Although the mountaintop courtyards were incredibly tempting, they were not so tempting as to give the students the illusion that they could defeat either of the two. However, teacher Li Yuan said, there is another way to gain the rights to reside within a mountaintop courtyard. The comment caused the students to hold their breath, hoping to hear something that sounded much more possible. At the end of every semester will the Riluo City's branch of the Royal Academy hold a tournament. The Academy encourages all students to participate, as anyone who participates are rewarded with an extra medicinal pill. Hui Yu slowly lifted his eyes from the scroll in his hands and looked at the teacher with curiosity. He had heard about the tournament before, but he had only heard that the mountaintop courtyards were the prizes. A pleased expression appeared on Teacher Li Yuan's face as he noticed how Hui Yu suddenly paid attention to him, and he quickly continued, "The higher the student is ranked, the better the reward they will get. The rewards vary from the right to live within a mountaintop courtyard, high-grade medicinal pills, or even permission to enter the higher-ranked martial arts skill room within the skill hall." These additional prices were definitely of value for both Hui Yu and Wang Zhulong. Although they already lived within the mountaintop courtyards, they could always use extra strong martial arts skills. Hui Yu knew that he could rely on Lan Feng to provide martial arts skills. However, Hui Yu was also perfectly aware that Lan Feng did not have all the martial arts skills created, so adding more to their collection could never hurt. When looking at the rewards, it was obviously the medicinal pills that were the most entrancing to Hui Yu. Especially the ones who were considered high grade. Currently Hui Yu was not aware how much money the martial arts skills would sell for, nor was he aware how much medicinal pills would cost him, so he could not help but consider the possibility that even while selling the skills, he would still lack money to buy medicinal pills. Teacher Li Yuan ended the lesson after the information about the Royal Academy tournament, and just as the lesson ended, the loud sound of a bell ringing could be heard all throughout the mountains, showing that the canteens were starting to serve lunch. Some of the students instantly rushed out from the Chi Theory lessons hall and towards the canteens, while others gathered in groups and conversed about the subject that had been touched throughout their first lesson. Teacher Li Yuan did not stay within the classroom for a short while, seeing if any students had questions for him, but as none of them paid him any attention, he swiftly strode out the door. Hui Yu stayed at his seat in the back of the room, observing one group of students leave after another. There were no more lessons this day, but Hui Yu still had some things he wished to get planned out. He slowly rose from his seat, and although he was one of the last students to leave the room, Wang Zhulong and his followers were still seated within. Wang Zhulong was in meditation, most likely refining the essence he had absorbed earlier, and the other noble children waited patiently for him to finish. Hui Yu could not help but smile as he walked past them. Every single one of the children were glaring at him fiercely while reaching out their arms to protect Wang Zhulong, as if they expected Hui Yu to suddenly attack him while the other was not paying attention. As Hui Yu left the hall, he did not walk towards the residential area where the canteens were placed. Instead, he moved further into the mountains that contained the different school buildings, causing a slight panic in his soul caused by Lan Feng. "No food?" he asked, and sounded as if the world was ending, causing Hui Yu to chuckle slightly. "Don't worry," Hui Yu assured the blue-feathered boy. "We will eat soon, but there is something we need to check up on first." Lan Feng felt puzzled. Although he and Hui Yu shared a soul, all they could feel was the other's emotions. Whatever it was Hui Yu intended was completely hidden from the other. It was therefore with great curiosity that Lan Feng observed as Hui Yu moved towards the library. Hui Yu had to walk through 3 mountains to reach the library, and as he looked at the building he could not help but feel astonished. All the other academy buildings were built on top of the mountain sides, however this library was built from the mountain itself. Towers had been carved out from the mountainside, while the inside had been turned into a giant hall connected with tunnels leading towards smaller rooms used for studying. To enter the library, Hui Yu had to walk through 2 big stone gates, and he felt goosebumps appear on his skin as he got closer to the building. The temperature was dropping as the mountain top covered the sun. A small breeze of warm air exited the building and swept across Hui Yu, making him smile slightly as he hurried inside. Although the library had taken the space of a whole mountain, it was much less crowded than anywhere else. Only a few elders were noticed here and there, spread out across the multiple bookshelves. Hui Yu paused his steps while looking around, slightly uncertain as to where he could find the object he was searching for. "Hello, Junior." An aged voice sounded from the side, and Hui Yu quickly faced the elder who was walking towards him. The elder had a gentle smile upon his face, and gave off a feeling of serenity. The elder was wearing a gray robe that slithered across the ground without making a sound, causing Hui Yu to feel slight alert. However, he quickly noticed that the elder was an ordinary librarian. "Can I assist you with anything?" the elder said with his melodious voice that held the secrets of a long life, and in general gave Hui Yu a pleasant feeling about this man. However, Hui Yu had also seen a flash of interest within the elder's eyes, and he stayed alert as he politely greeted the elder. "I am in need of a map of the continent. I was wondering if elder could help me find it?" Hui Yu asked with a slight smile on his face as he felt a sudden bubbling of excitement rising from within his soul. The elder assumed that the smile was meant to be a politeness. However, what Hui Yu felt was Lan Feng's feelings that were overflowing. Lan Feng was not completely dumb. The Blue Phoenix did lack social skills and morals, however his intellect was far above what Hui Yu had ever seen before, and the word map instantly explained what it was that Hui Yu was intending. Hui Yu followed the elder with great respect, and while nothing was noticeable on the outside, Hui Yu was smiling widely on the inside as he could feel the excitement and happiness bubbling in his soul. spreading towards every part of his body. This was one thing that meant a lot to Lanfeng. The library was much bigger than first assumed. Although it was not located in different levels, the mountain hall was spread out across hundreds of meters where the only thing visible was bookshelves upon bookshelves. The elder led Huiyu all the way towards one of the walls. The mountain walls were filled with doors that lead to small rooms that had been carved further into the mountain itself. The room that the elder had brought Huiyu to had not been opened in countless of years, as a thick layer of dust was evident upon the door handle, and the elder needed to use his entire strength to pry it open. A heavy bang sounded as the mechanisms finally started working, followed by a loud creaking noise that rung through the entire library. As soon as the door opened, a stale air escaped the room and assaulted Huiyu's nostrils, making him wrinkle his nose slightly. The elder clapped his hands and a dimmed light lit up within 4 crystals that were placed upon the walls, shining through the room. The room was considerably small. In the middle was a round table that took up the majority of the space. It was made from stone, carved out from the mountain itself, giving the entire room a rustic and slightly chilled feeling, as no heat had entered in all the time the room had been sealed. The walls were covered with stone shelves, and scroll upon scroll was placed upon. Huiyu gently picked up one scroll and moved towards the round table in the middle. He observed the elder from the corner of his eye, wondering why he still stayed to observe him. However, even if the elder noticed Huiyu pay attention to maps, it was not possible for him to know why he needed these maps. As soon as Huiyu opened the first scroll, the smell of soil appeared and the map started decomposing in his hands. Huiyu could not help but wonder why the maps had been stored in a room like this. However, it did nothing to help him find an answer, and instead he picked up a few more scrolls. At first he took the smaller scrolls. However, he quickly found out that those contained maps of cities throughout the 3 allied countries, and he then moved on to the larger maps. The search took a lot longer than what Huiyu had expected, as he needed to be incredibly careful with the old maps to keep them from disintegrating, but finally the map he needed had been found. A big smile spread across his face as he moved the large map towards the stone table to observe the full view and gain more understanding of the new country he had lived within for 10 years. The elder had been watching him the entire time, and he narrowed his eyes when he noticed that Huiyu had indeed looked for a map of the continent. Most students who looked for maps would come with an excuse like this, however they were truly searching for maps leading to treasures within magical beast territories. A whistle escaped Huiyu's lips as his gaze swept across the map in front of him. Lanfeng had previously told him that the 4 divine beasts had created the continent and then split it evenly between them, and now he understood just how correct that sentence had been. The continent itself was in an almost rectangular shape. A few places had continents where the sea had swallowed up some of the land, or even created peninsulas throughout the many years the continent had existed. However, it was obvious that the land had originally been split into 4 equal sizes, as the middle of the continent had been split into 4 even countries by a cross-shaped mountain range. Huiyu knew that they were currently in the Taiyang Kingdom, and located it quickly at the bottom left side of the map. Above Taiyang Kingdom was the elusive Shinyuan landscape located. The Saban Empire was the neighbor to Shinyuan, and beneath the Saban Empire and next to the Taiyang Kingdom was the Yulian province. When looking at the map, the 3 allied countries were all drawn in astonishing detail. Mountains, cities, rivers and forests were mapped accurately, however in sharp contrast to the 3 detailed countries was Shinyuan. The map had only managed to map out the edges of the country, and even the seaside was not completely finished with the map and instead had straight lines. It was obvious that no one had any idea as to what was locked within that area of the continent. "This is odd," Lanfeng commented after observing the map for quite a while. "Taiyang Kingdom is placed upon the Azure Dragon's kingdom, but who would have thought that my home has turned into a cursed land?" Hearing this made Huiyu curious. It was 4,000 years since Lanfeng had been sealed and banished from this world. It was obvious that a great fight had occurred, but everything was shrouded in mystery, and now the mysteries were tied with Lanfeng in one way or another. Huiyu and Lanfeng both observed the map for a little longer while their desire to leave Riluo City and travel to Shinyuan struggled within. However, after a few more minutes Huiyu finally managed to suppress his desires and packed down the map before he moved towards the elder with a smile. "Thank you for assisting me," Huiyu said politely and bowed slightly towards the elder before he turned around and moved towards the library entrance. Truthfully, Huiyu was curious about the many books within the library, and he was quite certain that some answers to his questions could be found within. However, right now was not the time to focus on reading about the world history. Firstly, it was obvious that Huiyu needed to cultivate to at least the master rank before it was possible for him to leave Riluo City. Secondly, Huiyu was not comfortable having the elder observing his every move, and he decided to return another day. The elder watched Huiyu leave the library from within the warmth of the mountain hall. A curious expression had appeared within his eyes. As a librarian, this elder spent every day reading books from within this library and could easily be considered the most intelligent person within Riluo City. However, even he had been unable to understand the martial arts skills he had seen Hui Yu use during the fight against Xinping. The elder had watched the recording a few times, but he quickly gave up on seeing through the skill. Instead, he started looking through all the noble families from within the 3 allied countries. However, so far he had only found one minor family with the surname of Hui. It was a noble family from within the Yulian province, and it was obvious that this Yu was not from there. A sigh escaped the elder's lips as he saw the white-haired boy disappear in the distance. Hui Yu left the library mountain, and as walked through the academy buildings he ran into Rongming and Rongxing, who exited the martial arts skill hall, and their faces lit up in gentle smiles upon seeing Hui Yu, who instantly moved towards them. Hui Yu had promised Lanfeng that he would go get some food, and as the Rong twins had not eaten yet, the 3 of them moved together to a canteen where they could talk about their first day back at the academy. Rongming laughed loudly upon hearing what happened with Xinping, while Rongxing just shook her head. The Rong twins started discussing which martial arts skill they were going to buy, and Hui Yu observed them with fondness in his heart, but at the same time a slight feeling of guilt. Hui Yu were going to sell a high-ranked martial arts skill within the Riluo city, and it was likely to cause trouble for the Rong family. They might spend an incredible amount of money on buying a useless skill, or they might end up worrying about their opponents who has gained a high-ranked skill. Although Hui Yu feels guilty towards the Rong twins, he is very well aware that he has no other option than to act this way. It is true that the Rong family has been treating Hui Yu favorably the last many years, however Hui Yu was still unsure about Lord Rongliang's reasons for behaving this kindly. Even if the Rong family were positive towards Hui Yu, it was obvious that they would suddenly become alert if he was capable of pulling out strong martial arts skills, as they were aware that Hui Yu came from a poor village with no cultivators, and this left Hui Yu with the only option of selling the martial arts skills on the black market auction while hoping that no one could activate them. What are your plans for the first day off from the academy? Rongming suddenly asked Hui Yu, and turned towards the white-haired boy who had been completely absorbed within his thoughts. Hui Yu returned to the present and looked at Rongming before continuing. I need to go to Riluo City to look for something, he said slowly, hoping to avoid the subject as to what he needed to look for. We will be visiting father, Rongxing explained, we can give you a lift. Hui Yu nodded gratefully, as it was definitely quicker than having to walk. What do you need to do? Rongxing continued curiously. She knew that Hui Yu was of poor origin, and she could only come up with one reason as to why he would go to Riluo City the day after pill distribution day. Hui Yu smiled upon seeing the look of apprehension on Rongxing's face and quickly waved his hand. Don't worry, he assured her, I am going to do some investment that will allow me to gain more than one medicinal pill. Although Rongxing had her doubts, she was still a noble lady and she felt no reason to discuss anything that Hui Yu had already decided upon. It was his own medicinal pill after all. The conversation quickly returned to a cheerful and uncaring manner before Hui Yu finally rose from his seat and moved toward his courtyard under the excuse of needing to cultivate. What he truly needed was to plan out the sale of the martial arts skill, so that he once again could feel enough inner peace to cultivate. Lanfeng could sense the worry from within Hui Yu about their current idea, so he decided to explain which martial arts skills he had planned on using. I do have quite a few master and grandmaster ranked martial arts skills. They might be the lowest ranked skills I have, however I do not think we should sell those, Lanfeng started. They are low ranked compared to my other skills, but they do not have high requirement and all of them are really well made. If we sell those we will definitely be inviting trouble. Hui Yu frowned upon hearing this and nodded. What do you have in mind? He asked instead, as Lanfeng was the one who knew which skills he had at their disposal. I suggest that when we go to Riluo City we spend the coins we get from the medicinal pill to buy a memory stone. If we have enough coins to buy 2 stones, then we buy 2 stones, as I have 2 skills I am considering. Hui Yu nodded. Currently neither he nor the Blue Phoenix knew exactly how much money they would be able to get from their medicinal pill, so it was best to assume that they could only purchase 1 memory stone as of now. The skills I suggest are both Middle King ranked. One is a martial arts skill while the other is a spiritual art skill. Hui Yu was quiet upon hearing the high ranking, and Lanfeng could understand this worry. If by any chance there was someone who could actually activate the skill, then they would be in quite some trouble. Although it is a high-ranked skill, it is the one I have which is the hardest to use. These skills were created by an expert that wished to check his most powerful chi attack and spiritual attack after opening his higher dungeon. They are both tailored to him as a person, so it is the one who has quite some insane requirements from the cultivator, Lanfeng explained. The martial arts skill is called Chi Burst and its purpose is to release the cultivator's full chi force with one kick. To be able to activate this skill, A cultivator needs to have a purer chi than the expert who created the skill, and he also needs to have the same amount of chi as the cultivator has, if not more. Currently we only know of Lord Zhongliang and Bu Huang who might be able to use it. But even if they can, then it is a chi attack, and they are quite useless compared to the attacks they can use after unlocking the higher Danshan. Hui Yu nodded. This martial art skill was actually not as dangerous as he had expected, as it could only be used by real experts, and real experts rarely had to rely on chi. The spiritual art skill is the exact same, Lan Feng continued. It is tailor-made to the expert and it has even higher requirements. The cultivator needs to have the same elemental affinity as the expert, which is affinity for water, and then they will release the entire spiritual power in the form of a tsunami. Suddenly a thought struck Hui Yu. Wait, if they cannot use the skills, why would they buy them? He asked dumbfounded, but Lan Feng snorted a reply. They do not know if they can use it before they get the skill in their hands. A requirement such as pure chi than the creator is too vague to know just upon seeing the skill within the memory stone. Most families will definitely gamble on it, and if they have no cultivators who can use it now, there is no one who can say if they get any in the future. Hui Yu nodded slightly. It did seem possible. A slight calm appeared within his soul, as it seemed as if Lan Feng had actually thought it through. The calm was a sign that Hui Yu once again could focus on his training, and he instantly activated Chi Guard, which he trained until his Chi vortex was completely empty before he sat down and meditated, absorbing and refining essence at an incredible pace.